You think it's crazy to say that my game of the year might just be a collection of 20-year-old GBA games? Well, that and Xenoblade 3 Future Redeemed, but regardless, how can I put a collection that high up? How can a bunch of GBA games elicit that much joy that I would say, yeah, this is the best thing to come out of 2023? Xenoblade? Nah. Spider-Man? Nah. These 6 GBA games. That's what I think the peak is. I'm hoping now that it's been a few months, I can put my thoughts out there on why I might think that, both positive and negative.
Just so you know, my official name is AI Navigation Program Megaman.exe. You get all that?
Alright, let's go ahead and go over the first feature that you're greeted with the second you boot into the game, and it's the 3D Mega Man. A feature that, strangely enough, I didn't think I would adore so much. The fact that months later I'm still enjoying all of the dialogue he has to say, that is wonderfully voice acted by their respective language's voice actor, so that means, of course, we finally get our boy in an actual Battle Network game voicing Mega Man once again. And after dealing with the podcast, I have to rock with Andrew Francis once again. Hearing Surfer Dude Mega Man years later reprise his role to tell me that I did a good job completing Battle Network 4 and scold me for not playing the game enough on the PlayStation version. I'm sorry. I'm gonna play the Switch one more. Please don't threaten to leave me for LAN again. That aside, I don't know how to explain the vibes this screen gives, because it reminds me a lot of 4.5, which, big shocker. An actual Battle Network game is comparable to another Battle Network game. But, I don't know how to explain those vibes, but it's just the amount of, not customization, I guess. The amount of Mega Man being able to respond to what you do. Obviously, it's not super in-depth like 4.5, because that has a lot more options when it comes to dialogue, since that requires you to actually input things, and because it's not voiced, it has a lot more freedom. But even though there are limited lines, you do hear a few repeats here and there, but it's still absolutely it's joyful to hear them each time. You would think hearing Mega Man talk about, man, setting off an anti-chip is really good, you'd think you would get tired of that, but hearing that is still, months later, really, really cool. And the fact that he even tells you to wish Lan a happy birthday, which is just small things like that just add up. And I don't really know how to properly explain the amount of joy that all of this just gives me. Just listening to this as a grown-ass man, I just can't put it into words, and I'm gonna have to end this part quick, because, yeah, no. Words are not my strong suit, and being joyful about this one section is making that part 3D Mega Man aside. Let's go ahead and move on to a lot of the stuff that collections usually have, which is the image gallery, which has a lot of promotional art ranging from Battle Network 1 all the way to Battle Network 6. Which, strangely enough, they do have a lot of the side game stuff. So, they do have OSS art, which, hey, Capcom, I am hoping that's a sign that Star Force is next. Which, being honest with you, in my opinion, it probably is. You can easily market this the same way with Battle Network and lead into Star Force. But my favoritism aside, it has a lot of art from OSS. Strangely enough, it has art from the 2 Japanese mobile games, Phantom of Network and Legend of Network, which, that's something I never really expected, Like, I get that the official Complete Works has that, so just like ripping that out and then slapping them in here, that's probably like a no-brainer. But the fact that they even put that there to begin with, knowing full well that, like, you know, people outside of Japan don't really have a way to play that, so putting pictures of it, like, hey, it's not going to be as good as playing the game itself, but having art of those games to at least acknowledge that, hey, these were games that, like, we somewhat care about, here it is still pretty neat. And hopefully one day we'll actually be able to play them, and in my case, hopefully I can play them on an actual controller and not a Japanese flip phone with the worst control scheme known to man. But that aside, I am going to have to go over one negative part about this, which it's something that a lot of other people talked about, and it's the beautiful redrawn chip art. Why can't we look at that in the gallery? We can already look at the event chips in the gallery, so stuff like base GX, we can look at that in the gallery. But why can't I look at like standard chips? Like, I want to look at the beautiful redrawn Fireman art. Like, thankfully, the PC version is a thing, and we already ripped all of those art assets out. But the fact that I have to go to the PC and download it, like, from a completely different source, or rip them out myself just to look at this really good art, it's a little bit questionable. Like, hopefully in an update, maybe they'll let us look at it, because my only justification for them not putting this art out is they only made art for chips you could trade. So stuff like a lot of the Giga chips in BN 3, 4, 5 can't be traded. And if I remember correctly, they do have art for BN 6 Giga chips, and that's because you can trade folders, so you can, you know, look at the chip art. But the fact that not all the chips can be traded is the only reason why they might not let you look at it, because it's probably gonna have like a lot of gaps. So you could be looking at BN4 and then realize, oh, this doesn't have the Giga chips. So I'm assuming that's the reason why. But regardless, I still would have liked the option to look at it anyway, because it's really, really good art. Like, Battle Network has always had really good sprite art, so redrawing them into, like, actual, like, really well done art that I can look at whenever I want in a trade is really good, and I would want to have that readily available whenever I boot into the game, because if I want to use this art, I'm gonna have to go to my PC, which ain't that big of a problem for me, because, you know, most people these days have a computer, but it's still just a little weird to exclude that from the gallery. Alright, continuing more of the usual collection stuff. Trophies. Ranging from stuff like beating base in Battle Network 1 all the way to more minor things like getting certain crosses in Battle Network 6. Nothing too crazy for veterans, maybe for a few newbies here and there, but nothing a player can't do. And that's pretty much it. So the music player, just go ahead and touch up on that, because that's also a fairly, like, there's nothing crazy about this either. It's just the usual stuff, like, hey, here's all the tracks for Battle Networks 1 through 6, and a few of the pre-order bonuses. And I guess I would count this as like a minor, like, gripe I have, because I kinda wish the tracks from the trailers were in this. Which I understand, they are, like, you can get these tracks, they're just in a CD. But let's be honest here, it's 2023. I don't think that many people are gonna be going out of their way to buy a physical soundtrack unless they're a super fan. Which means I should probably go ahead and look into importing that from Japan. But that aside, I don't think including those tracks in the collection would have hurt any sales, because again, like I said, it's the current year. I don't think that many people are going to be going out to buy CDs. Most people are going to be going to, like, you know, Amazon Music and stuff like that, which, if I remember correctly, it is in Japan. So that's another way you can get those tracks, but it's just a thing of, I would have liked this in the collection itself, because a lot of those, like, remixes are really good. I think so far my favorite two tracks are the BN5 title screen remix and the same with BN6. A little bit more biased to BN6 because they used that for the e-reader card trailer, but that's just me. I would have preferred these as a nice bonus, but I can't complain for what we got. Like, I don't think there are that many people that use the music player, like, in collections to begin with, or they don't use it that often to warrant it, because if you're gonna listen to music, you're gonna use your phone. You're not gonna pull out your Switch, select a track, put your headphones on, and then put that in your pocket. I'm sorry, Nintendo, no one's gonna do that. Alright, the visuals. Clearly, since this is a Battle Network game, the visuals are nothing but absolutely astonishing, beautiful sprite work. So clearly, there's no problems with this, right? Well, they're mostly optional things, but personally, well, at least one of them isn't that big of an issue, and we'll go into that, at least for me. The first thing being the weird smoothing filter. Like, I understand there are people that like this stuff, but personally, like I just finished gushing about in the beginning a little bit, this series has really good sprite art. Like, it is absolutely beautiful for a GBA game to have this level of sprite work. And the fact that you're, like, continuously advertising, hey, here's this HD quote-unquote filter that smushes all the pixels together and it makes everything look like a melted mess that ruins the beautiful artwork of this game. Like, I understand it's a preference thing, like, some people like it, I understand that, but at the same time, it's like, man, there's genuinely something wrong with you if you look at BN's sprite work and go, nah, let me add this bad filter. Ooh, now it's perfect. No. And the fact that it's just continuously being advertised with that, and when you boot the game, it starts off with that filter. Again, preference thing. I don't think it looks good. And to continue on to that, something I'm kind of just indifferent to, somewhat, is, what the hell is that font? Like, after a while, you get used to it, and you don't really, like, notice it that much, but this is a collection of games where you're mostly advertising this as, like, a nostalgia-based thing, judging by, like, the Japanese commercials of, like, showing, oh, hey, we were kids, now we're adults, and we're still playing this. When you do that, and you go, hey, I know this game has beautiful, like, sprite work, we're leaning into nostalgia of, like, playing Battle Network, let's change the pixelated font for this weird, smoother font, I guess? I don't know what font they used, like, maybe if I give enough of a shit, I'll probably put it up on screen. That's a task for future me if he cares enough, but personally, I don't think it's bad, but I also don't think it's good, so yeah, like I said, I'm kind of indifferent. I just think it's a weird choice. Especially when it doesn't really fit the vibe of BN. So just having something like this where it's just really off-putting, because at least with the filter, you can turn that off. This new font, whether you like it or not, you're stuck with that. There's no options to go, oh hey, let me just use the original font, unless you're in the PC version and you use the font mod to return it back to the old one, or if you got a hack switch. But most people don't, and most people probably don't give enough of a shit to to mod the PC version. So having that option as the only option is weird. Like I keep saying, you're banking on nostalgia and just changing that. It's just a weird change. That even though I'm indifferent, I can't at least like squint my eyes and try to like perceive why they might have done it. Like maybe to make some things readable, but at the same time, it's like that wasn't an issue on a GBA. I think that won't be an issue for people blowing this up on a big screen. And I sure as hell don't have that issue with the Switch. So it's like, I can't really tell what the goal was behind this. I'm hoping that maybe with enough pushback, maybe they might make it an update, because we already have gotten an update. Like as an example, we didn't have black borders when this collection came out, which is weird because like every other Mega Man collection has. So the fact that this didn't, and with some pushback, same with the online, the 20-second timer, which I'll talk about later, that got a little bit of pushback, and then that got updated. So maybe, I highly doubt it, maybe if we get another update, they might, but I highly doubt it. All of that aside, how do these games feel? Well, should it be obvious, pretty fucking smooth. Which is a little bit weird, because usually these collections have at least some, like, minute amount of, like, input delay or whatever between, like, different versions, but it's about as responsive as me playing on my Game Boy player, which is thanks to whatever weird pseudo-emulation source port magic Iguchi and the crew pulled off. I'll probably just go ahead and link a tweet thread by Prof in the description describing whatever like wizardry they did, because honestly, I don't understand that shit. I am not going to pretend to understand that, but the fact that it feels super responsive as if I were just playing this on the original like hardware being a GBA is pretty good. And hopefully future collections, and maybe if they ever want to, because we already have an anniversary collection for both Classic and Mega Man X. So if we get like a redone of every collection we've got so far, hopefully we'll have this same amount of like effort put in there. And hopefully those versions won't have like input lag or anything. But for this, again, I don't know what the hell that team did, but it's pretty smooth. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about a feature that I've been super excited for, to the point where when I skipped out of work one day to react to one of the trailers, and the fact that the trailer I had to react to was the mod card trailer, I'm pretty sure I peaked my mic that day, because I'm so glad that this feature is here. Like, Volume 2, I prefer way more than Volume 1, and it's because of this. Like, as someone that collects, like, the physical stuff for Battle Network, like, I have battle chips, I have battle chip gates, I have a few mod cards that I also recently bought. Some of the most rare ones that cost a lot of money. So having access to every mod card released for Battle Network 4, 5, and 6, although is completely overwhelming because of all the customization options that you have, I'm glad that we have it, because one, that means I don't have to spend a shit ton of money, even though I will regardless because I have a good job and I don't really have a sense of saving money and I spend shit like water. But having all of that, giving me the option to not spend money like water, having more people have access to this because this was a Japanese exclusive for a long time because the e-reader sold like absolute trash. It's just really good. And like the actual customizations that you have on Mega Man that completely, like, it puts the Navicus to shame because you're doing stuff like you're changing your buster, you're changing your buster shots, you're giving yourself a lot of HP, you're giving yourself Navi customizer parts, doing stuff like, oh hey, let me start off with a barrier, let me start off with a life orb, let me change my buster shot to do 10 damage with Buster Max mode makes the game even easier. Changing my Buster's charge shot to wide shot, longsword. There's a lot of customizations here that I am all for and that I completely adore. Yeah, it comes with a few downsides, like, oh hey, you start every battle with like 5%, or you start, or god, what am I blanking on this? You have 5% less HP overall, or you start every battle with a motion bug, stuff like that. There are downsides, of course. You can't have something super overpowered, unless you're battle number 4, where they don't really have that many downsides, and you could just play through the game with stuff like All Guard and 4000 HP. But that aside, this stuff is really cool. This is really good. I think people should be using this feature, even if you don't want to quote-unquote cheat, even though you don't know what that word means. Shout out to the motorcycle outside. I'm not going to edit that out. But, like, I don't know how to put into words how much I adore mod cards, and I genuinely want people to use this feature because it's really good. And thanks to this collection, you can have all 499 just for the price of $60, as opposed to a battle chip lot that I got, which was 71 battle chips, a Link PT, a Beast Link Gate, the Base BX mod card, the Dark Mega Man mod card, and the Base Cross mod card for $300. We don't need people spending that amount of money for stuff like that. Even though it was quite the deal, because those 3 mod cards that I mentioned on their own would have cost me $300 by themselves. I only got that because I love mod cards. And if that weren't, like, if that lot didn't exist, I would be perfectly fine still using the collection because, again, for $60, the price of a normal current gen game, I can have the entire collection of mod cards. There is no reason for you to not use it. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to the Rookie Hunter mode equivalent of this game. Buster Max mode, which essentially just multiplies your Buster's attack stat by 100. This essentially makes every random encounter a non-issue, and honestly, the thing I'm kinda, like, fine with using it for, chip grinding. It just made that a whole lot easier for stuff like the chip trader, or just getting multiple copies of the same chip, which, for the second reason I just mentioned, I feel like the whole chip grinding thing, I feel like that was the main reason it was made. Which, I don't know if I'm getting this wrong. Maybe future me put up like the interview if what I'm saying is true. I feel like this was made with wanting people to quickly get into PvP, because there is an online ranked mode, and I'll get into that and how I feel about that in a little bit, but I feel like this was mostly geared towards getting people ready for PvP, doing matches for PvP, and getting enjoyment out of that. Because, big shocker, these are fairly long Game Boy Advance RPGs. It's going to take you a while. So introducing a mode where you could just blitz through it, make a folder, grind ships, grind Zenny, and quickly go online to start playing with friends and whatnot and start beating people up in online ranked matches. I feel like that was the main mode. Or the main reason why this was made. At least if I'm going off of this interview that I vaguely remember, or I might just be making up. Who knows? If I'm right, again, it's probably on screen if I'm right. But that aside, I do understand why some people might be opposed to such a mode, because it does make things a lot easier. It does completely remove the strategy to Battle Network, because the main reason why people like this is because of the battle system, the strategy, your movement, where you do certain attacks, how you move during certain attacks, pattern recognition. I can see why introducing a mode where you just throw that all out the window. I can see why people are opposed to that, because if this is your first time playing these games, and giving the player the option to just go, fuck it, Buster Max mode, kill that boss, done. Completely removing that aspect of, oh, I need to figure out this boss's pattern and touch up my folder, and now it's just 2 shots, he's dead. But at the same time, it's an optional thing, and if you don't want to use it, don't worry about it, and if somebody else is using it, don't worry about that, because the weird thing about this mode, which is, like, this has been way more divisive in some, like, groups that I occasionally talk to, compared to the stuff like Rookie Hunter mode. I don't hear that many people complain about that. But this is the one that people are, like, super up in arms about. Really? It's an optional thing. If someone else wants to use it, just let them. Relax. It's not that big of a deal. The real, like, meat to this is, you know how to play, you understand it, so you didn't have to resort to that. And that's perfectly fine. The beautiful thing about Battle Network is there are many ways to play this game. Be it alphabet soup folder, be it monocode folder, whatever. You do you, and you get your enjoyment from the game, regardless of how you play. Alright, so I don't exactly know how to go about this section without sounding, like, entitled or just spoiled, I guess. I guess those words kind of mean the same. Words are hard, but I don't know how to talk about the online, because I like using Tango. It has rollback for Battle Networks 1 through 6, including 4.5. Going from that to what I assume is peer-to-peer, that's such a downgrade, man. Like, I wasn't expecting Capcom to put rollback in a game where they're not really trying to make a competitive scene mode. But if you're gonna do a game, regardless of the amount of effort that you put into it, if you're gonna make a game where you have an online ranked mode, I kind of expect at least to have a good experience with the connections in online ranked mode. Because even though the collections online ranked mode is pretty dead regardless of the platform, I kind of expect the experience to be smooth overall. Because there are different like options. I can fight people from, like, North America only, from Asia only, worldwide. So obviously I'm going to be fighting different people with different connections. So having something extremely laggy kind of ruins that, especially when I'm competing in an online rank where I am expected to win certain matches to rank up. I think it's a little bit ridiculous to have something not really as good and fluid that I would want in a game where you kind of need to be on your toes at all times with a 20, now 30-second timer. But that aside, to be a little bit more positive, I am glad that we can battle and trade whenever we want. Hell, the Switch version even has local, so having that, along with having the options to just throw hands whenever you want to. Like, I could be on a stream and I can just go, hey, let me just open up this room, first come, first serve, any viewer can pop in. That's great. Though, I guess my only tiny gripe with this is, I kind of wish the lobby system was a little bit better. Because thankfully for battles, if you do a battle, you can immediately, like, oh, I want to do a rematch, let me hit a button, you're done. Why can't I do that with trades? Like, I like trading multiple chips with people because you don't know, like, if you're doing a massive, like, link trade. So if I want to trade like a few chips with friends, I would want to immediately go back in there, not, okay, I traded a chip, now it forced me to back out and close the lobby, now I gotta remake another lobby, here's the new code, yada yada. I feel like giving the option of like, oh hey, let's trade again would have been nice. And I guess another tiny gripe, which, like, I'm not really gonna complain about it too much, is I would have preferred to maybe be able to trade 3 chips at once, like a double team DS. That game got it down packed. 3 chips at a time? You can trade an entire PA to somebody. That's pretty good. I'm sure with whatever, like, magic you did to make this, like, pseudo, like, emulation whatever thing, you can maybe work that with trading. Just a suggestion. Just a suggestion. Alright, so my final thoughts on this. Do I think this is worth the money? Honestly, just the patch card section alone probably should have gave that away, what my answer to that would have been, but honestly, for $60 for excluding the multiple versions, 6 GBA RPGs for $60 that has online, Japanese exclusive content, a retranslation, or just a translation in general for the Boktai scenario that we outside of Japan never got, and all of the patch card stuff for $60. Honestly, I think it's worth it. If you're a little on the fence on buying this, maybe wait till it's like a little under 50. Because I know there are some people that genuinely don't feel like buying this, even though they're a fan. They're a little bit like on that fence, since it's like, oh, like these are just ROMs put on a collection, yada yada. If you're one of those people, wait till it's like a little bit under 50, maybe pushing it under 40. But regardless, I still think anybody that likes Battle Network should pick this up. Like, even if it's for anything, just the online alone, the fact that we were able to get that makes this instant purchase for a few fans. If you've never played Battle Network, honestly, I would just say pick it up regardless if you want to give the series a try, because there are 6 games to choose from. And honestly, even though there is like an overarching story and you would benefit from playing through all 6 games back to back, just pick whatever one looks cool to you and just play it. That's gonna get me shot. There's gonna be somebody out there that's like, oh, you have to play it in story order. Nah, this isn't Kingdom Hearts, it's fine. You can play Battle Network in whatever order you want, whichever one you feel looks cool, you're fine. That is my way of saying, please don't start with Battle Network 1, or at least, if you're gonna play Battle Network 1, play up to Number Man and decide, hey, yeah, maybe I want to stick with this before moving on to BN2. But, that little spiel aside, I still don't think this is perfect by any means. I do think it is the best collection. Still ain't perfect, none of these collections have been perfect. Even the ones that people like, whenever the Classic and X Legacy collections came out, people were like, the PS2 and GameCube collections, those were the better ones. Like, even then, having bought those recently, none of these collections were ever perfect versions of those games. Whatever they put out at the time is great for at that time. That, and also telling somebody to go out of your way to buy a PS2 game in 2023, what the fuck are you doing? Come on. Stop that. Especially when, because of sales, I can either spend $20 on Steam and buy the collection there, or buy the PS2 collection. I think I'm gonna tell people to buy the one on modern consoles, but that aside, I think it's weird that even though this collection has been selling pretty much like hotcakes, like we got up to 1 million in the first month, which is absolutely crazy for a Mega Man game. I still think it's weird that it took them like 3 months to do like bug fixes. As an example, the Django 3 like chip lockout, I guess I would call it. I don't really know what else I would say, but the fact that you can legitimately lock yourself out of the completing the game, like 100%ing it, or I guess in this case getting all icons, you can lock yourself out of that by accident if you're playing in English, and that was a big thing, and it took them 3 months to do. I'm glad that they eventually got around to it, but I think it's still weird. But even with that, like, minor nitpick regarding bug fix patches, which thankfully they seem to have been a little bit more hands-on with a recent bug fix patch that they did. I'm so used to saying bug fix because of PvP that I'm just an update, a patch right on its own. But they did recently fix another bug involving the DLC, which I'm glad to see that they were at least a little bit quicker on the gun for that one. But with all of that aside, that minor nitpick, the minor nitpicks that I might have had saying everything that I've said before, be it online, be it something I probably cut out because I genuinely think I sounded like a little bit of a whiny child when it came to the translation, so I probably cut that out. Nobody will ever know what I've said. But that aside, all of that aside, pick this up. Be it a fan or not, pick it up. You're doing yourself a great disservice by missing out on, honestly, a really cool Mega Man series that a lot of people just say that they like it, and finding out that more people have played this in their childhood and then re-exposing them to that. It's like, it's really good seeing different streamers play this, like a bunch of like popular like VTubers play this. I think like Maximilian dude, like he dabbled with it a little bit, like seeing big names play Battle Network of all things, something that like kind of got shit on for a lot of years because it wasn't Mega Man, but here it is, outselling pretty much all of the other Mega Man sub-series, quickly catching up to like 1 million in under a month. Like, it's probably at this rate going to be maybe the best-selling Mega Man game, maybe not. It still needs to beat BN4, Mega Man 11 and like Mega Man 2, but it's catching up there. And the fact that this series, where back in the day got shit on for not being Mega Man enough, the fact that it's doing all of that, and it helped our boy, our blue boy that gets ignored by Capcom quite a lot because it doesn't make good sales a lot of the time. It's nice to see him make these sales in such a quick amount of time, and it's still going. Seeing a Mega Man game like sell out physically to where Capcom has to just say, hey, we're gonna try and put out more copies of these games soon. You guys sold us out. not a lot of stores have these anymore. We're gonna put out more in like 2 weeks. That's a nice thing to hear. Especially after like not really hearing that much because of, you know, COVID. They're most likely working on Mega Man Tyson, and that probably doesn't have that much manpower behind it. But I'm gonna stop rambling. This section alone, it's probably gonna be the longest one because I'm just doing this off script. Since like I said before, I think this is something worth picking up, regardless on your stance on it. But if you have a strong stance against buying it right now, please just wait, get yourself a sale. I don't care how you feel about this, support the series, whatever, buy it. We gotta let people know this is a good sub-series to like get into. And maybe if Battle Network sells a lot more, maybe we can I don't know, get the series I kind of like a little bit better. Maybe we can get Star Force relatively soon. But you didn't hear that from me anyway. Bye-bye.